What's going on, everyone? We got the live cranked up. What's going on, Tony Welshman, Nita Cavelli, Yo Stay Gold, what up? Pony Boy, what's going on, big guy? Greetings, May Verniciel 77. Greetings from Denmark. Denmark. Did you see the protests, the farmers' protests? Not enough media coverage on that, man, I will say. They said it was, we have to reduce the nitrogen emissions. Meanwhile, that would reduce farms by about 40%. And those are farms, by the way, that have been in production for, some of them, several hundred years. Some of these farmers, it's been in the family for hundreds of years. Could you imagine that? Interesting, Cash Suave. What's going on, South Carolina, New York City? We got Whittier, CA. That might be either California or Canada. I'm not familiar. Hurricane Ian was weaponized, said I am drab. I would say this, okay? It is interesting that, I mean, yes, Florida is in a place that is prone to hurricanes and can have hurricanes, right? But it just seems interesting because anytime, well, first thing, there is several different patents. Okay, and I'm not saying this is the case of this hurricane specifically, but there are technological capabilities to be able to steer and engineer hurricanes. Yes, there are patents that I will send. I'll send it to my Telegram channel, or you could just type in, perhaps on DuckDuckGo. Even though DuckDuckGo is compromised, you can still get different search results there. But anyways, if you type in, patent for hurricane control, etc., there are many patents to engineer all kinds of storms, man. Since World War II, they've been engineering storms. And keep in mind this, okay? And I know some people would think this is just too far out, man, but let's just logically calculate this for a minute. They say that we need to own nothing by 2030 and be happy about it because, we got to save the climate. Everything's about saving the climate, right? And the way that the establishment wants to save the climate is by basically stripping us of pretty much every right and freedom that we have under the guise of to save the climate, okay? So what if this, and I know all of you likely already all know this, but what if they're using weather modification technology to create crazy weather events to then blame on us driving our cars to and from work? They're blaming on us these weather events to then say, this is what we need to do to stop these weather events, this climate change. We have to reduce our emissions, which means smaller properties, smaller houses, can't build in certain places, can't live in certain places. And by the way, this is all fully planned, that there'll be settlement, or there'll be zones that are off limits for human use. Zones that have been used by humans and lived on by humans for thousands of years. And this is you can research Project Wildlands and how they want people densely contained into, suburban areas and city areas and out of the country. Because in the country, think of this for a second. You're in a community with a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand people. You all have kids. You all have some means of producing food, whether it's farming, cows, chickens, you're growing stuff. You can be pretty much, just like for thousands of years, fully self-dependent. You're dependent on only yourself, not the government, not these systems, etc. That's exactly what they don't want. So they want to kick people off of the land and have them living in dense urban centers. And the way they would do that is say, look, we got to save this climate. Or as Greta Thunberg says, or you saw my video the other day, what was it? That is why we must change the climate. Save the climate. So anyway, it's quite obvious. I mean, I know you guys are all paying attention anyway, but imagine that. Imagine the shock on the average person's face when they realize how deep this rabbit hole really goes. The average person thinks, okay, climate change is like a big deal. And then like one level above that is like, okay, the climate's changing, but it's always been changing. And then one level above that is like, yeah, they're just overblowing this. Like the climate's not really changing that hard. And then there's the level above where it's like the climate is being engineered intentionally and weaponized to then push forward rules and regulations against the population to reduce their freedoms and rights, to eventually put them into smart cities and have them completely controlled and enslaved. I mean, how many levels do we want to go here? Just imagine if the average sheep realized that is what is going on. And all those people, the useful idiots, which I'm sure the Bilderbergs sit around and go, we have so many useful idiots in this world who are promoting our agendas unknowingly. I drove by them yesterday, wearing masks outside with signs that said like, there is no planet B, save the climate. It's funny how they don't protest in front of like Nestle headquarters and Coca-Cola headquarters and Monsanto headquarters where like the most destruction possible is happening. Instead, they're protesting in a park next to a residential road where people working average jobs are driving to and from work, trying to provide for their family while they're getting taxed out the yin yang, while there's more carbon taxes being increased and whatnot. It's just funny. Like, I'd love to sit down with like a climate activist and be like, okay, so what are your thoughts? And they'll say, well, we got to reduce like our carbon. That's why I drive an electric car. And I go, okay, so where do I begin here? Fuck. The amount of fuel and energy it takes to mine all the materials for your batteries is less sustainable than coal and gas. That's a fact. So your car is not green. Next, well, we have to like reduce our carbon in any way we can. Okay, how do you suggest that? Well, let's just, we got to do something about it. I don't know the exact solution, but we got to do something about the climate. And then the politicians come in and say, we will do what we can to save the climate. Vote for us. You vote for them. And then they come out with all the Agenda 21 guidelines, which is carbon limits. If it goes to digital ID, which they're trying to do, then, and digital only currency, then they're going to be able to track what you spend and be able to say you spent X amount of currency tokens, whatever it'll be. And in order to stop the climate from changing, you can't spend more than a certain amount per month, because that would result in a certain amount too much of carbon emissions. This is quite planned, by the way. Like, if you think it'd be easy to just think all of these things up, you'd be wrong. I mean, they're telling us this is what the plan is. So, anyways, these climate activists, man, it's like, there's like 6 corporations that are responsible for 95% of all the plastic in the world's oceans. There's 3 rivers in China that are responsible for 70% of the plastic that's in the ocean. So, I mean, like, the corporations produce it, and then the countries that don't have as much infrastructure or whatever, all the plastic ends up in the ocean. And this leads me to my next thing is, yes, the hurricane was definitely, I think, engineered. Like, I would bet a lot of money on the fact that it was likely completely controlled and weather modified into existence. Not to say hurricanes don't exist naturally, but the frequency of them and how powerful they are and whatnot, they do have the technological capabilities to do that. And keep in mind, I mean, there is many things they have technological capabilities of that we finally now know, and that's only what we know, not necessarily what we like. I mean, there's so much more, right? So my point is that what happened in Florida and these thousands of houses that are so damaged and perhaps fully even destroyed, and how much trash and materials and stuff that doesn't belong in the ocean ended up in the ocean from that. I know that's the least of our worries. People died from it and shit's really whack. But I just can't help but think that if these alternative building methods weren't suppressed, then a hurricane could come in and all these houses are made of clay and cob and straw bale, which are much more resilient to winds, fires, floods, etc. Hempcrete is mold resistant and water resistant and bacteria resistant and all this. There's so many natural building materials that if there was a destructive hurricane and some buildings, which would be way less, actually got destroyed At least it's just clay and straw ending up in the ocean instead of Chinese drywall and toxic plastics and all types of materials that are completely toxic that end up in the ocean when one of these big events happen. I mean, think how much stuff went in the ocean when Fukushima happened. Entire cities swept into the ocean. Like, there's a shitload of stuff floating around and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And one day we'll be able to pick it all up somehow. But I don't know how yet. You know what I mean? But think about it. We're looking at approved buildings, ways you can build houses where I'm at. And there's not an option on the list for a cob or a straw bale home, which are, if you want to use their terms, carbon neutral. But really the reason you'd build your house out of straw or cob is because it purifies the air within the home. It regulates the temperature. It regulates the humidity. You don't need a vapor barrier, more plastic. You don't need drywall and all these things. But that's not on the list. You could buy a property that's like an acre and pull some clay up, and you'd have enough materials there to actually build your house on the land, just using the materials that's on the land anyway. And then what happens is you're, let's say in a couple 100 years or 100 years, because these things do last a long time, there's some hemp buildings and a hemp bridge, or a cob bridge rather, in Europe that's been around for like 350 years and it's still standing. And then one day it just returns back to the land. I mean, it's amazing what can be done with the natural materials that is totally suppressed. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a course in school that taught people how you can buy land and build your house from the land, from the materials that are already on the land in the first place? I mean, it's interesting. They don't talk about that. Instead, they want you living in, and this is what happens when I drive by a suburb that's going up, right? You drive by this suburb and you may not think about this, but this is something that goes through my mind. All the new homes generally have to be built to the new standards of carbon emissions and efficiency. So basically what that means is your house has to be airtight. And what happens generally when people buy a new house, they buy new appliances, they buy new furniture. Or it comes with new appliances or new furniture or new carpets, new paint, new drywall. And then this is where I'm going with this. It's airtight. Unless your windows are open, you're in an airtight house with dozens of different products and chemicals that are off-gassing. So I know a few people maybe think that's a big deal, but inside of a home can be 10 times or 100 times as toxic, the air, as outside, even in a dense city where you'd think like smog. No, dude, the real smog is in the home. In fact, when you see a bulletin that says like air quality warning, like the air quality is bad right now, it's funny because that's, I think, the illusion of we're trying to keep you safe. Like, beware, it's smoggy out. The real smog, the real thing that's going to harm your health, is not particles of smoke in the air from a forest fire, although that does do something. It's, how about the air quality in people's homes, where they have synthetic fragrances, fabric softener, laundry detergents, and all these things. That is something quite toxic that you may want to avoid at all costs. So it's just funny. It's like they should have a bulletin that says, warning, remove all Febreze and all air fresheners from your home. They are completely toxic. But of course, that would help people to not be polluted with endocrine disrupting chemicals, which, by the way, we've said this before, but don't you think it's interesting how many thousands of products disrupt the endocrine system? And the way I put it is this: I'm not saying they are planning or trying to disrupt people's endocrine systems, but if they were, what would they be doing differently than what they're doing right now? You see what I'm talking about? You know that you can go look at any bottle of detergent soap, laundry, detergent shits, and there's no ingredient lists on it. No ingredient lists. It's proprietary, meaning you don't need to know. They say it's because trade secrets and all that. But I think what it really is because if you saw 60 different or up to 3,000 different chemicals that have been proven to be dangerous and harmful, and you just did a quick little search on your phone while you're in the store, okay, what does this chemical do? Oh, it's a neurotoxin. That means it kills neurons, kills brain cells, makes you docile and weak. You wouldn't buy it. So that's why you won't see any ingredient list. Same with fragrances, same with cologne or anything like that. That's all, trade secret. But anything with the word perfume or parfum on it, Parfum, is legally allowed to be like 6,000 different chemicals. So they have quite the hold on people who are completely unaware of what fragrances really are, what they can be, and how many disruptive neurotoxic chemicals can be contained in just the average cologne, body wash, anything with a scent. If it's not like an essential oil that's giving off the smell, you're probably being poisoned. And that's not to like be dramatic, like it's a fact. If you can smell a bunch of fragrances coming off some product and it's not some eco, organic, naturally scented, blah, 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 you are being poisoned. I know it sounds maybe kind of bold. It's like, dude, what? Well, there's no other way to put it. It's not you're being like a little bit exposed to a little bit of a harmful chemical. No. Like, my stance is it is designed to do that. And you're a part of the experiment by allowing yourself, either by ignorance or lack of knowledge or not caring, that these fumes, man, they will bung you up. They will disrupt the alveoli in your lungs. They'll disrupt the olfactory receptors in your nose. There we go. A call came in. They will disrupt your endocrine system. And so, some people may think, but this is what I realized. I remember seeing a meme like 10 years ago, and it was talking about EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals. And it was specifically talking about those plugins, okay, where you plug it in and, like your house smells good, even though it should just smell normal before that anyway. And it said endocrine disrupting chemicals, watch out, EDCs. They contain and they disrupt your testosterone, they disrupt your hormone function and all this. And at first I was like, well, what, like hormones? Like that sounds kind of, who cares? What's a hormone? I mean, come on. But no, like hormones, that's how you sleep well. Your melatonin. Hormones is how you feel good. When you do something, when you accomplish something, serotonin and dopamine are released, and it makes you stoked that you achieved something. If you had no hormones going through your system right now, not only would you not be able to sleep and you'd probably die, but you also would just be lost, man. You wouldn't have, like, animals reproduce because their hormones, time of year, they're in heat and they got certain hormones and they're ready to go, If they didn't have hormones, if the animal kingdom had endocrine disrupting chemicals, and they do in some places, it would be the end of they go extinct. Humans, if you look at birth rates, have a similar situation going on here, where guys, not only are their testosterone levels critically low, but their sperm counts are lower and lower, down like 50% in the last 60 years. If it's just so funny that people somehow think that the system is trying to keep us safe and do everything they can and blah, blah, blah. But if they really, really were, they'd be like, yo, warning, don't consume all the shit that's on the TV, that's a commercial. If you see a commercial for it, avoid it. And we got to do something about the plummeting rates of fertility and the plummeting rates of sperm count and the plummeting hormone, all this endocrine disrupting chemicals. So that's the crazy thing to me. And I still remember that meme, man. You can't underestimate the power of a meme. I mean, there's some memes that are just, in my head that I thought when I first saw it, incredible. Someone made this little meme, they typed it up on a computer, came into my feed, and then sure enough, boom, I realized I got to avoid every single synthetic fragrance that there is because they're all poison. Now, of course, you're not going to die from being exposed to a synthetic fragrance, but it can disrupt. It weakens you, man. It alters your brain function. It puts you into an altered state of consciousness because your hormones are out of whack. Thousands of years ago, what's an endocrine disrupting chemical? I don't really think there was any back then. Of course, there's there was surely maybe some chemicals and things, but like not to the degree it is now. You cannot compare to what it is now. Now we got a couple questions streaming in. And someone said to expose the fossil fuels and the wording of fossil fuels. This is the other thing that is part of the scam. Oil doesn't come from fossils. They've never found fossils even close to as deep as they drill for oil. And not to mention the Geneva Convention, which is when they were trying to set a world price for oil in 1867. Rockefeller, who owned the biggest oil company at the time, paid scientists to refer to oil as a fossil fuel, which induces the idea that fossils don't regenerate. So oil mustn't regenerate. It must eventually run out, and therefore it's scarce, and one day it will be gone, and so we can turn up the price for oil. I mean, I know most of you guys already know that, but some people hadn't heard that before. So anytime you hear the term fossil fuel, you're being lied to. It doesn't come from oil, or it doesn't come from fossils, and it doesn't run out either. And it's also a lot better of a fuel source than solar, wind, or even hydro. But of course, you got to make sure you don't spill it. But hey, even spills, there's 600 different species of mushroom that if you were to have a wall or a net with the materials you need for these mushrooms to grow, and you put that on an oil spill or near it, the mushrooms completely neutralize the chemicals and whatnot from oil that could be hazardous. So there's many natural ways, as opposed to spraying like a surfactant, which is what they usually do when there's oil spills. So there's just many levels to this, many levels. But yeah, so my point is though about the fragrances is that I don't know how many years it's been that I've been exposed to fragrances. I'm pretty sure I was wearing clothes that were washed in regular laundry detergent for most of my life, and those contain those chemicals. So who knows when I was 19 if my testosterone levels were half of where they should be. And there's very few folks who are exempt from this giant plan against humanity who have perfectly optimal hormone levels throughout their system, etc. It's just extremely rare. And that's some of the importance of why we talk about taking clinically studied ingredients. I'm taking the Irish moss right now to get the full matrix of minerals. Minerals are another thing that they've completely scammed the world about. People are buying multivitamin and mineral supplement from the grocery store, which are all synthetic, cannot be absorbed, they're not bioavailable, and you do not get the benefits you're supposed to from minerals. As you know, minerals are supposed to ignite every biological process in the body. So I'm taking 4 Irish moss right now. This is, by the way, wild crafted from Nova Scotia, pristine cold waters of Canada. Unlike, and this is what we get every time, the odd person goes and Googles it and then says, dude, how come your Irish moss is so expensive? The vast majority of Irish moss that you can buy on the internet comes from islands in the Caribbean. And if you didn't know, the islands in the Caribbean, which grow Irish moss, do not treat their gray water. So all the microplastics, all the toxic soaps, because you can't find a healthy soap in those countries, man, I've been there. And all that stuff, the microplastics from all the plastic clothes, which, by the way, good luck finding organic cotton in most Caribbean countries, man. It's all polyester. The towels are polyester. Everything's polyester. And those polyester trillions of microplastics, every time you wash a polyester shirt, look at the tag, man. Every time you wash a polyester shirt or clothing item, billions of microplastics end up in the water. And water treatment plants can't pull that stuff out, generally. And an open gutter running down the city street in all Caribbean countries especially do not filter out the microplastics. So when you buy Irish moss from Caribbean and the Grenadines and all those areas, I'm just saying, like, I lived in Grenada. I saw the gullies in between the houses and whatnot. And anyone washes their hands, they run the dishwasher, they run the laundry. All that water just is pouring down the sidewalk basically as you're walking down the street, and it ends up right in the ocean. And that's where they grow the moss. So just saying, this is Irish moss, wild crafted, so it grows wild. It's not farmed, and it's from Nova Scotia in Canada, pristine cold waters. So anyway, let me take these 4 damn Irish moss before I forget. So 15-20 minutes, those minerals will start to be absorbed, and then you get what benefits? Oh, mental clarity, respiratory function, especially Irish moss. It's funny because this is the thing. I'm sure you guys have seen those posts where they say that certain fruits or vegetables or foods that look like a part of the body also help that part of the body, like walnuts are apparently good for the brain and whatnot. If you look at Irish moss, it looks quite similar to the alveoli in your lungs, and Irish moss is one of the best supplements for lung function. So there's a divine thing in this world, I'll tell you that right now. I think I get my moss from St. Lucia, another country with no water treatment. They just have gray water going into the ocean, and that's where they grow it. So that's why you got to watch out. And that's why it's so cheap too. People are like, yo, why can I get Irish moss for so cheap instead of like it's not expensive at all? I'm getting a great deal. Well, you could be getting the Shanghai surprise too. But yeah, the Irish moss is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's for minerals and brain function as well. But if you're taking something like the Shilajit, which by the way, Bruce Lee, all in his biography, and he was a Giga Chad, he was taking purified Shilajit. And he actually attributes a lot of his accomplishments to being able to take this superfood supplement every single day. Like, he took copious amounts of Shilajit. He was probably way above the daily recommended dose. And if you didn't know Shilajit, it's a natural compound that comes out of mountain crevices and rock cavities in the Himalayas and throughout Asia. But this particular source of Shilajit comes from the Himalayas, and it's a herbo-mineral compound. So it's ancient plants and minerals that have fused together over thousands of years. And this has been proven to boost testosterone for men, balance hormones for women, calibrate the endocrine system. So all the toxic chemicals we just mentioned, forget about them if you're taking a superfood like this. And it boosts energy, stamina, endurance, and more. It's super good for brain function. And the other thing it does, and this is what also the 7 Wonders does from chalk, it induces neurogenesis. So anything that's a neurotoxin, like fluoride, Wi-Fi could even be considered a neurotoxin, but it's an electrotoxin because it's toxic electrically, like it has an electric charge that is degenerative for your cells. But if you're taking this stuff, it induces production of new brain cells, which is the beautiful thing about taking these natural compounds while we're still allowed to. And keep in mind, due to the first couple days of the month and a bunch of people missed out on the last of the month's flash sale, Chalk opened up the 44% off lifetime discount to get 44% off for life on any supplement or bundle at chalk.com. And that's at the link in my bio, and the coupon code is pinned below. And that's going to run for the next 8 to 12 hours max, based on how many slots are available. That's just when it's probably going to close. And you can cancel at any time. MMJR said, Shilajit or Chalk Daily? The Chalk Daily is the one supplement that's specifically formulated for men. Every other supplement can be taken by men or women. So I definitely recommend, for ladies, if you're going to get one, get the Shilajit. For guys, if you're going to get one, get the Daily. And the main ingredient in the Daily is Shilajit. So you have that, but then there's also a couple other herbs that are best suited for men, believed to be best suited for men historically. Is Irish moss that's made in America okay? I mean, America's a big place. Find out where it's from. Like, I'm sure they could farm moss in Florida, but you know, you'd want to research that, you know. Someone said up here, yes, exactly. Irish moss, yeah, so I would definitely check that. And the other thing is, someone asked, do you get addicted to chalk? Chalk doesn't contain any stimulants. There's no synthetic hormones like you get in testosterone replacement therapy or birth control. These are just natural herbal extracts and ancient superfoods that have been used for a long time. Like, I'm talking a long time. And to be able to get them in such high quality too, like, let me just explain one thing. Most ashwagandha on the internet is from China. Most of it is farmed from China. Most Tongkat Ali on the internet is farmed. Chalk has certified wildcrafted Tongkat Ali, that's from Malaysia in the rainforest, certified wildcrafted ashwagandha, certified wildcrafted Irish moss, and the shilajit's from the mountains. You can't grow shilajit. So it's amazing to see how many supplements that Chalk has that are not corrupted with, like super, super good deal, man. Like, we get it at a great price. And meanwhile, it's the Chinese supply, which most people get, unfortunately. So yes, and that's how you know too that they're serious. I mean, all the clinical studies and lab tests are available at chalk.com. And keep in mind, that's the other thing I didn't even mention. Clinically studied. A group of 100 people taking Tongkat Ali. What happens? What's the average thing that happens? Well, guys get their testosterone boost. Ladies get hormones optimized. Fertility is increased. And that's from taking the Tongkat. And in fact, I actually haven't taken any Tongkat today yet. So I'm probably going to take, 3 or 4 of these. And that's 100-to-1 extract, by the way. So every capsule you see of Tongkat, imagine 100 worth of product. 100-to-1, baby. So yes, very good question. What's your thoughts on the deplatforming of Andrew Tate? Well, they say it's because of what he said about women or whatever, but that's not why. It's because hold on, a lot of what he was promoting too, like he was promoting a little bit or a lot of degeneracy, which the system likes. The problem is his opinion about the lockdowns and the government is not what the system liked. So that's why they canned him. It had nothing to do with he was like rude to women or whatever they said, which is, it's because he had opinions about the government that they didn't want this guy who was getting insanely viral, insanely amount of followers. He got like millions of followers in like a couple months once he really blew up. They can't have that, they can't have that. So that's why he got canned. So yes, very good question. We got another one here coming in. Eric Consciousness. That's a good name, man. Let me just take these Tongkat first. Hold on. There's a Tongkat, yeah. Did you guys see we're spinning honey? I'm sure you saw my stories. Jacob 8, the color of Irish moss actually changes seasonally due to different amounts of sunlight exposure and whatnot. So it's fully natural for its color to vary. Thank you, Ovo XOMO. She said, if anyone's on the fence, I can attest this stuff works wonders to balance hormones. It is calibrated. We have people, we just got someone who Chalk posted it to their story, someone with a lab test of their testosterone levels, a guy, before and after taking the Chalk daily for 90 days. And I think he had a 20-something% boost in testosterone from the 90 days of Chalk daily. So that's clinically studied as well. And Scott Freezy said, you can also customize your subscription to Chalk. Yeah, for guys, you can get the most popular bundle is the male vitality stack. And for ladies, you get a female vitality stack. And you can mix and match each different supplement, whatever you feel most drawn to. But don't pay full price when you can get 44% off for life using the code 44life today only. And that's at the link in my bio. And the code is pinned below. What else we got? Save this video. I guess I should figure out. The thing is that I can't post this video because, I mean, this one actually would probably be fine to post. Maybe I should post this one. I didn't say anything too crazy yet. But, yeah. Jen said, which is the best supplement you have for women's hormones? Well, the two supplements, out of all the supplements, 2 of them that have some of the most clinical studies for women and boosting their hormones and boosting their fertility and brain function, energy, stamina, etc., would be the Shilajit and the Ashwagandha. And that's the female vitality stack right there. So you got the Shilajit, like I said, induces neurogenesis, new brain cells, optimizes hormones. And by the way, just because there's clinical studies showing that Shilajit balances hormones, the funny thing is we still don't know scientifically how it does it. It is still a mystery that only the natural world knows. That somehow taking Shilajit, there's bioactive compounds in it. There's fulvic acid and humic acid, which are these natural compounds. There are those, but we don't yet know how exactly it is able to boost and optimize so many biological functions in the body. It's incredible. Al Cordy said, what do you recommend when it comes to shampoos and soap? Well, I mean, if it has a commercial, avoid it. If it has a synthetic fragrance, avoid it. And you don't really need it that often. Good warm water cleans you mostly enough. And you also shouldn't over shampoo your hair. You strip it of all its oils. You've seen those guys, or that guy's YouTube video, like dandruff. Like, I have dandruff, so like I use anti-dandruff shampoo, and like I still have dandruff. Yeah, it's because you're using shampoo. Just stop using shampoo at all, and you won't have any dandruff, and your hair's oils will naturally balance out. So, Othman, depending on who you were saying that to, I might have to kick you out, big guy. So watch it. Yeah, urine therapy is definitely a legit thing if anyone's researched it. I know it sounds crazy, but what do you use as laundry detergent? There's Eco, you can get at any health food store, any grocery store. There's Eco soaps. The same stores that sell poisonous ingredients generally have a natural aisle where you can get some stuff that's decent. Yeah. Othman said, I find your suggestion insulting. I'm so sorry you're insulted. Maybe you should leave the live then. Hot and Cold said, so no cologne or perfume? Well, here's the thing. There's natural colognes. I think the best natural cologne would be like an essential oil. For guys, like a pine or a spruce essential oil smells pretty good. And a girl could be wearing that too. There's nothing worse. I mean, just saying, you know, I walk by a group of people or one person and they completely reek like a synthetic fragrance. It's quite putrid. I'd rather, you know, run, man, get away, you know. And especially like groups of people walk by and all I smell is fabric, like, or, you know, fabric softener, laundry detergent. It's bad, man. I wouldn't say like sensitive to it. Like, I just am aware of it and I know how bad it is and it sucks to smell it, put it that way. And actually, I was getting gas yesterday and this person filling up next to me, like, I'm like, smells good. Nothing like the smell of gas, you know? And then someone pulls up next to fill up their stuff and the gas smell is gone and all I smell is synthetic fragrances for the next 5 minutes. And I was like, damn, man, I was enjoying that. I'm just kidding, but half kidding. They did stink up the pump with their synthetic fragrance. Groovy Lauren said, can pregnant women take these supplements? Well, first thing, congratulations. And chalk is not intended to treat, cure, diagnose any disease. And you'll see on all the bottles, it says not intended for use for nursing or pregnant women. But that is a standard legal disclaimer that needs to be on there. I recommend researching, for example, the Tongkat Ali. You got to do your own research. Has it been used for thousands of years with all kinds of people? The Irish moss, has that been used for thousands of years with all kind of people and whatnot? So you got to come to your own discretion. I can't market to minors and I cannot tell nursing or pregnant women to take it. It's a totally different ballgame when it comes to that sort of thing. But with being pregnant, congratulations, as I said. And I hope that you are getting high quality fats. I'm not talking coconut oil. I'm talking coconut oil is good too. But what kind of fats are you getting? If you're cooking your food in oils, what kind of oils are you using? Hopefully not canola. Hopefully not, what's the other one? Vegetable oil, corn oil. There's soybean oil is in vegetable oil as well. Those are all toxic. If you're eating dairy, I hope that it's not pasteurized dairy because the raw dairy is the one that has the trillions of nutrients and beneficial bacteria and enzymes. You know what's funny about raw milk is that it's its own ecosystem If you leave raw milk out, it doesn't go bad. It turns into yogurt after 48 hours. You leave it longer, it turns into sour cream. You leave it longer, it has a life cycle of leaving it out. It just changes into a different product that's still edible. The cooling it in a fridge is just is how you keep it in the state that you put it in the fridge as. So if it's milk and you put it in the fridge, it's going to stay milk. So that's the thing. Now, there's a reason why they have demonized raw milk over the last years and years. Because if everyone was drinking raw milk, their gut bacteria would be 1 trillion times better. Their immune system would be powerful. And they also would be able to more easily get over common sicknesses because they'd have all those nutrients and enzymes. Store-bought kefir is pasteurized. So kefir is supposed to be like tons of bacteria and stuff, but it's pasteurized. So you're better off finding an Amish farmer or a Giga Chad farmer who's selling raw milk and, figure out that. Now, the other thing is, for anyone who's pregnant, get your phone away from your stomach. Turn your Wi-Fi off at night is also a good idea because the children's brains are more susceptible to the frequencies. And then also, let me think of some quick tips. There's medical procedures you want to avoid, but I can't really talk about this or that, rather. 305 Sherman said, doesn't dairy cause mucus in the body? There was a couple theorists who claimed that. There's no evidence that exists. And also the other thing, lactose intolerant people are actually able to consume raw milk. There's no such thing really as lactose intolerance. If you're intolerant to lactose, it's because your digestive tract, your bacteria is out of whack. If you have the proper gut bacteria, you are able to consume milk and lactose. And here's the thing. If you're drinking raw milk, it contains the enzymes lactase, which enable you to digest it. So a lactose intolerant person can drink raw milk and be fine because it has the enzymes in it that let you digest it. How funny is that? Alcordia said olive oil is the best. Olive oil is good, but if we're talking cooking, there is better. But olive oil definitely has its place. Like it's up there like top 4, but I would say the 3 above that when it comes to fats that are bioavailable and contain the branch chain amino acids and all that, it's actually animal fats that have a much higher ability to, or that you have a much better ability to absorb these amino acids and whatnot from, especially cooking. I'm talking ghee, tallow, lard, and butter, especially raw, unpasteurized butter. Now, someone may say, but dude, veganism. I'm a vegan and that does not compute. Well, we were vegan here as well. We used to actually promote it. But we have come to find that there's actually a large agenda behind that, which we will expose further. But yes, the best fats that every single one of your ancestors for thousands of years have consumed, tallow, lard, butter, and what was the other one? Beef tallow, I already said that. Butter, lard, you got it. Someone said, how do cows get fats on a grass-fed diet? It's a good question. Generally, a cow will be much leaner if it's fed only grass because there isn't much fats in grass. But the fats, there is definitely enough to get way more fats in your system than by eating like coconut oil or whatever, because you think about the amount of nutrients that are in cow's milk and whatnot. So here's my point. Or the way that they fatten up a cow usually is with GMO soy and GMO corn. But the incredible thing is you can take a cow and instead of feeding it GMO corn and soy, people feed it organic barley and peas and it fattens it up naturally. And then that has more fats on the meat, could be more fats in the milk as well, but I'm sure that's calibrated anyway. And there are many nutrients that you cannot get on a only plant-based diet. And you may be saying, that's not true. That's a scam. That's no, you can get all the fats you need. You can't get all the fats you need on a plant-based diet, especially not with all of the amount of fats you're supposed to get that are, as I said, our entire your entire lineage dating back thousands of years consumed every single day. So that's the important part, and they don't talk about that because they want you eventually eating plant-based meats, lab-grown meats, no real meat, and they want you weak. So it's not too, I mean, it's pretty obvious why they're promoting all these, right? And then also, hold on. Butter. You're going to feel bad for butter in a second. Listen to this. Thousands of years, butter consumption. Everyone consumed butter. And if you weren't, you were trying to. In the 1950s, they started promoting the idea that fats make you fat. So fats from butter, fats from cream, fats from animal fats will make you fat. And you want to avoid them, and you want to avoid cholesterol. Those are the fakest words you've ever heard. Then they started promoting fat-free or low-fat butter. And then they went so far as to create margarine. If you want to know a bigger scam, maybe only 9/11 is up there above the butter and margarine scam, where they scared an entire continent about what butter will do to you, and about how it's dangerous and it makes you fat, and instead eat the low-fat stuff or eat margarine. You'd think if these fats were fattening you, then our ancestors would all be fat. Instead, none of them were fat. You'd be hard-pressed to find any one of your ancestors in the last 50, 60 years who was actually obese or fat. It didn't exist because their system, because you don't get fat from fats. You get fat from fake seed oils and processed sugars. So that's the crazy thing that few people know the extent of. And you know how many people got sick and shortened their lives because they listened to the TV that told them to avoid animal fats and instead consume margarine and low-fat butter and whatnot? A lot. So if you think they care, they don't. They don't care what gets harmed in the process. They will lie to you and be fine about it. Real sugar is not bad for you, but there's levels to it. Cane sugar is good, but the less processed you get it, the better. Brown sugar is quite processed cane sugar with molasses added back to it. Molasses does have a ton of minerals and whatnot. Molasses is good for you, but you'd better off, I mean, I don't mind brown sugar. In fact, it's quite delicious. But there's better, less processed cane sugars that you can get. Also, of course, honey, which you're about to see more of in my stories today. That's actually what I'm doing after this, is going to spin the rest of the honey out. We got probably around 500 pounds of honey. We've spun about half of it. And if you're wondering what I mean by spinning the honey, you just got to check my stories or my latest highlight, because we're spinning honey, man. And maple syrup's good too. But you got to watch out. Maple syrup, you got to keep it in a freezer, man. It can go moldy pretty, after not too long, or at least in the fridge. Monk fruit sugar, that's probably good as well. Coconut sugar is good too. And coconut sugar, your body doesn't even barely detect it as sugar. There's many good sugars out there, but don't be afraid of cane sugar. Just avoid the white sugar because it's super processed, nothing like brown sugar anyway. And so, yeah, don't be afraid of sugars. Don't be afraid of fats. Just get the high quality stuff. Date sugar is good as well. It's quite good as well. But you just got to watch out for the processed ones. And especially most packaged foods, especially anything that has a commercial, is likely poisoning you as we speak. So you got to watch out for that. And we'll talk about, that's basically where we're going with that. What sugars do you guys eat? It sounds like you're all nail gunning out which sugars you all consume, and it's good to see. Most of it's quite healing. That's the thing. People are scared of sugar. They're scared of fat. I'm not scared of sugar. I'm not scared of fat. fats don't make you fat. That's a scam by the Rockefeller medical system that's created blood thinners, and that's created cholesterol lowering drugs, which is a multi-billion-dollar market for a thing that doesn't negatively impact you at all. So, I mean, come on. Total scam. But yeah, so for those who are on the fence, today is probably one of the best days to be able to try the chalk supplements because they're doing such a deep discount of 44% off for life. And for guys, definitely try the male vitality stack for like $25 a month because you're getting 44% off for life. You can boost testosterone 21% in 90 days, optimize hormones, boost sperm count, boost fertility, energy, stamina, and endurance. And they're all those are clinical studies. Like they've clinically studied, right? They've been clinically studied. And then for ladies, you have the female vitality stack, which contains purified shilajit and the ashwagandha, which are extremely powerful ingredients that have been proven and used for thousands of years. This guy just said, I'm not even gonna, let me just kick this guy out. Hold on. That's funny, dude. So yes, the importance of getting these superfoods in your system, especially when chalk is running such an insane deal, 44% off for life, 12 hours max left on this deal until the slots are filled. Anyone overseas, you can either use the code 44life or use the code 44off. 44 off is for store-wide 44% off one-time purchases, and that's what you want if you're sending it overseas. That cuts back, well, that removes your shipping cost, and bottle cost goes down as well. So yes, definitely make sure if you're on the fence and you want to try chalk, you want to optimize your endocrine system, boost your hormones, boost testosterone and boost fertility, etc. Definitely try the male vitality stack or the female vitality stack for 44% off for life using the code 44life. We'll talk to you guys on the next live feed, and stay tuned for my stories today. You're going to see us spinning more honey. All right. Much love, everyone. That's at the link in my bio and the coupon.